Our dear friend Joe Shaler, who has been so responsible for getting things done for veterans in our community, called me and then sent me I've got to read the small print here. Bill, I know you're doing a special program for Flag Day. I was wondering if you could remind your listeners about the ceremony this Thursday evening at 6:45 at the courthouse, where the county citizens and villages are all become Purple Heart communities. That's a very interesting thing. That's a very, very important little designation there. I know we'd be the first in the state, and as well maybe the first in the country, to have 100% representation. So we're going to order some Purple Heart awardees. That's a pretty decent thing to do. That's a very decent thing to do. That's this Thursday at 6:45 at the courthouse. Show up, folks. That's the least we can do. That's going to be something we don't want to miss. Judith K., you and I will go down there, and
yes, sir.
Yes. Now, also, I received note from Gillette Ransom down there at Elkhart. They have the Elkhart Historical Society, and this next the 23rd. I got to get my date right here. They're going. Our friend Paul Bieber, a neighbor who's a noted historian here in the county, knows a whale about the Scully lands and their estates and so forth. And Paul is going to give a lecture entitled "From Swamp to Field" this Friday, the 20th. Not this Friday, next Friday, the 23rd, at the Horse Feathers and Wild Hair Cafe, and they're going to serve an outstanding meal. Judy, you and I have been down there, and we all can count on a good meal.
Yes.
So I urge you to get in touch with, let me give you this number, please, 947-2238. 947-2238 to get your reservations in. And I urge you to do that. It'll be a fun evening and a very informative evening. So have we got all of our kudos out of the way?
Well, I think you did a darn nice job.
Well, let's see. We'll see.
If you got just a couple more, we'll be right at 8:30.
Oh yes, we do have a program for this morning. So let's honor these nice ladies. They made a special trip to get out of bed and come down and see us this morning.
Yes, they did, and their job is very important. As we heard on the news this morning, there was a Republican representative in Congress who was shot while they were practicing for the baseball game, and he's in the hospital and being taken care of, and he will be okay. But sometimes you think the whole world's going to pot in a handbasket.
You know, Judith, we are a part of the media in a way. Radio is
no, you. I'm the door guard.
You open the door for the cats, I know. But I think, old man's opinion, mine on, not WLCN's, not Prairie Radio. Anyway, I think a lot of these things, these incidents, are media-driven. They're whipping people up to a frenzy, and you've got some lunatic out there who's on the bubble anyway. And these things come along, and it just foments in their mind, I'm going to do something about this. I think really the nutheads that are always out there screaming, and there's plenty of them, kind of trigger somebody's impulse to do stupid things like this. So, let's get serious about this, ladies, the reason they're here.
Well, these ladies get the children who are going to run the nursing homes for us in a few years, and they get them in Head Start, and they get them in early Head Start. Now, when they say early Head Start, it starts with birth. It don't get much earlier than that, right?
Actually, it starts before their birth, really.
Does it?
As far as the mother's care for themselves and so forth, and the ramifications, what it has to the child that's in the womb.
Oh, that's when you have the flu for 9 months, right? Okay, I remember that. Anyway, these gals are in on the ground floor of this, and thank God you are, because hopefully this next generation will be able to represent themselves better than some of the rest of us. And they are Marcia Hieronymus, Mason County Director of the Head Start program, and Tasha Mohn. I did it right?
You did.
I love it
She
when
is
that
a bright
happens.
study. She's better than a pretty face, I'll tell you that.
And she's the head of the Logan County Head Start. How long have you had the early Head Start? When did they pass that law?
Well, early has always been a part of Head Start, but Community Action, I think we got early Head Start probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. We just, when they gave out more money for grant expansion, we started early, but we started out as home-based. So
This is countrywide, but so what is the genesis, ladies, the beginning of Head Start program? Do you know that?
It started in 1964 with, what's his name?
Sam Smith?
Lyndon Johnson.
Yes, it was in Lyndon Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
It was in his
yes.
era where they started the war on poverty, and Head
Yes.
Start started out
That's
in
where
that.
that's the genesis of that.
Yes.
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 And how many children do you have in Logan County?
In Logan County, we currently serve about 71 preschoolers, and we serve about 40 early Head Start children.
That's a bunch of kids.
Boy, you've got a full plate. And in Mason County, you have about the same, something like that?
We have, in Mason County, we have 54 in Head Start, and I have 8 in early. We just have one center classroom for early in Mason County, and then we have 2 Head Start classrooms.
Now, where do you meet, Tasha? Where are your headquarters?
I'm here in Logan County. Most of our sites are in Lincoln. We have 3 preschool classrooms, 2 that are full day. They run 6-hour days. 1 that is a half-day program, so they run 2 3.5-hour sessions each day. And then we have our early Head Start, which has 2 classrooms. They run full day as well, 6-hour days. And then we have 2 family educators who go to the homes and do weekly home visits with our families who prefer that method.
How do you do the early Head Start for 6 hours? I'm sure they'd have to have a nap in there.
They do. All of our full day programs have a nap in the afternoon. Those children also receive breakfast, lunch, and snack while they're in our care.
Aside from everything else you offer, I think it's so beneficial for kids to have a schedule. This is the time school starts. This is the time we have our snack. This is the time we have our lunch.
Jean does that to me at home.
I know, and I'm glad for that. But really, that's good for kids. They like to have things be kind of planned ahead and set out.
Yes. And our classrooms all have a daily schedule they go by. We are also licensed by the Department of Children and Family Services. So not only do we have Head Start regulations to follow, we also have to follow regulations from the state.
Now, tell me about the bureaucracy involved therein. Do you get a lot of well-intended folks who really don't know what the heck they're talking about? It's a bureaucrat thing, you know.
But they want a steady paycheck?
They want to pay, yeah, right. Yeah. Well, seriously, I don't want to make light of that,
right.
Although I did.
I would probably say that, you know, all of our programs are grant funded, so we just have to follow those regulations. And some are a little more difficult, I think, than others, and sometimes you look at it and go, really, how do you know if that's going to work? But for the most part, I think it's pretty well put out there, and basically the regs tell you this is what you have to do, but how you do it is up to your program and your agency. So
her daughter puts up with that kind of bureaucracy. She's in the Department of Children and Family Services, so she knows a lot about bureaucrats.
Yes. Yeah, they seem to run across her. Not over her, just across her.
They're not going to run over that girl.
Now, the children, do you kind of feel that you've bonded with them after you've had them from the day they're born?
yes. Yes.
Absolutely. I think, our staff do a great job of getting to know those families, not just the children, but the parents, and making sure that the parents are well off. As CAPCIL, our big thing is family education, family growth, not just child. So we're working with those families to make sure that they have resources that they need, that they can get, classes if they need to further their schoolwork, getting GEDs, getting additional classes to get jobs to support their families.
Well, that's so important.
It is.
Has that always been part of Head Start?
Yes. Head Start is focused on the whole family, not just the child. So we have a part of Head Start is a family service piece within that. So and they do self-assessment surveys and different things to find out what needs the family might have and that we can help support.
We kind of make snide remarks about the bureaucrats and programs that we have, but it occurs to me, Judy Kay, and James, that this is one program that has a definitive impact at the very age when you need a definitive impact. And so, it occurs to me that we should be spending accolades to this department rather than trying to be smart aleck.
Since you write for your own grants, do you each have somebody on staff who's a grant writer? That's an art.
Yeah, our director, actually, the director of the Head Start program, writes the grants and all of those things. And
so you'd have, the both of you, for Mason and Logan, would have the same grant.
Right, it's all one funded source.
Who writes these grants, Kathy?
The director of our program.
And who is the
Her name is Jennifer DeWeese. She's the director of the Head Start program.
Well, heads off to her, I'll tell you that.
That's an art.
Yeah.
And where is she located?
She has an office in Havana, and she also works out of Lincoln. So she's kind of all over the place.
Kind of all over the place. I'm kind of that way myself.
Well, our program spans 6 counties, so we have several different other counties too that we cover. So.
Do you have occasion to go to those other counties?
Yes.
Okay. And how many are on your staff in Mason?
I have 6, 7, I have 9, I believe. That 9, because I have 3 teachers, a bus driver, and then we have 2 early Head Start teachers, and then I have 3 teachers in Manitou.
Tasha, what about you?
I've got 15 on staff.
1 5.
1 5.
Boy. Yeah. Now tell me a typical day. Well, the first place, I don't think I know what's the youngest you accept a youngster into your program for your supervision. What would be the youngest age?
Into the classroom, our early Head Start can take them at 6 weeks, just like a daycare center would.
Goodness. Really?
Yes.
That's pretty much just changing pants and feeding.
Yeah, that's just physical care.
Yeah, and just taking care of their
And I
needs.
suppose a lot of loving and patting on the back.
Doing that bonding piece, really.
Yes.
The sad truth is that in some, if not many, instances, that's probably the only loving care that youngster might get. Am I correct in assuming that?
In some cases, yeah.
Which is a sad comment, of course.
Right.
Yeah. But think of the impact that's going to have down through, as it... Now, at what age, 6 weeks, at what age do they, quote, graduate from your program?
Us when they're ready to go to kindergarten, so age 5. When they're ready to start the school district.
Now, do you have regular meetings, like a PTA meeting, for the parents then to assess what's needed and how they're coming and the things that they have involved themselves in?
We do. We have parent-teacher conferences twice a year where the teachers will meet with the parents and talk about where their child is and how they're progressing and what can we do to get them to reach goals, different goals and that kind of thing. It's also a time to reflect with the parent on what they see they would like to see their child be able to do. We have school readiness family nights once a month where the teachers will plan a school readiness activity and the parents will come and they'll do the activity with their child so they kind of can see different things that they can do at home with their children.
Are the parents pretty eager to attend?
Some are. I think it just depends on what's going on at the school, because many of our families have older children.
Sure.
So it depends on if they're available to come at night.
You know, we need to be eager to attend to our sponsors who make this program possible. So if Mr. Ash is ready at the control board, we'll turn the keys over to him. And we're right back in the studios of WLCN. The program this morning is a Viewpoint. As you might remember, Mrs. Busby and I appear here each Wednesday morning, 8:15 to 0900 hours. Our guest this morning, two very important ladies. You know, we have a lot of bureaucrats and a lot of studies and so forth. You know, they waste millions of dollars studying about the sex life of the amoeba or how to eradicate the tsetse fly. But here's a program that puts your money right where it does the most good. An impact on youngsters who need a lot of loving care. So Tasha Mohn and Marcia Hieronymus, that by the way is in Atlanta. Did you ever know the Hieronymus name up here in Atlanta, Jim? Just a little bit. Anyway, we appreciate your giving us your time this morning. Ms. Hieronymus does the Head Start program over there in Mason County, and Tasha takes care of Logan County. And they're having a major impact on a lot of youngsters. 648-5510. Some of you folks out there might have a question for these ladies about that, and we'd be happy to field your questions for you. Go right ahead, Judith K.
Well, tell us a little bit about the basic expectations you have for, let's say, a 3-year-old. And I'm sure it has to vary from person to person because we're all individuals.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the basis of our program is really kind of introducing kids to structure in that school routine, preparing them to go to kindergarten. So we have very structured days. Like I said, we serve the children breakfast, lunch, and snack in our full-day programs. And they do receive 2 of those meal components in our half-day programs. They also receive outdoor playtime, which is so important to children at this age, getting that gross motor experience outside. Our full-day programs do take nap, which takes up a portion of our day. But in addition to that, we do literacy, where the children are reading books and learning how to answer questions and infer information from pictures. We do music and dance time, where the kids are able to be up and moving. We do center time, where children are able to go around to the different areas of the classroom and play with toys that interest them. And during that time, our staff are really working on facilitating questions, talking to the kids, getting them those good language skills, those good conversation skills. And in addition to those, we do a lot of fine motor work, small group work, where children are working on learning social emotional skills. They're learning information about health, how to take care of their own needs, you know, basic hand washing skills, toothbrushing skills, which are very important in our classrooms, and then working on those skills that they're going to need for kindergarten, such as letter recognition, learning to write their name, how to hold a pencil, how to use scissors, just those basic prepared skills so that they'll be ready to enter kindergarten when they're 5.
Boy, we're just not babysitting, are we, kid?
No, sir. You know, in the olden days, my friends and I were basically at home with our kids. And of course, that isn't the way it is anymore. And then that was about when the idea was evolving, whereby maybe that's not good for the kids. Mm-hmm. They should go to daycare or something similar so that they can become acclimatized to other children and how to treat them. Mm-hmm. And what's your stand on that, Marcia?
I think it's extremely important. Children need social emotional development. They need to learn how to get along with other children, especially for children who are only children. You know, they're the only child in the house, and if they don't have other children to play with, then when they go to school, they're not going to have those skills in order to have a conversation with a child, or, you know, learn how to ask someone to play, or things like that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the basis of early childhood is the social emotional development.
Yes, and you know, when a kid is little, they're very selfish. Mm.
you.
Yeah, that's just kind of, it comes with the package.
Is that what G meant when she told me to grow up?
I think maybe that's what she was talking about. But is that something you try to instill in them? Is the business of to share and to be kind to your neighbor?
Yes, we work on those skills every day. It's a big part of the program. We have two different curriculums that we use along with that. One is called the second step, which is teaching children about feelings and how to get along with others. And then we also have the Feeling Buddies curriculum, which is part of our conscious discipline program. And that's how to teach children to self-regulate and to kind of get themselves to where they can solve their problems on their own.
How in the world do you teach them that?
It's quite a process. It really starts
I should think so.
You know, starting to teach children what feelings are and what emotions are so that they can identify how they're feeling. And, you know, once they know that this makes me mad or this makes me sad, then you can start to give them tools on how to handle those emotions. So teaching them to use language rather than what kids do, using their hands, you know, kind of teaching them to solve those conflicts with their peers.
Now, do you also teach them that other kid has feelings and fears and joys and all of the things too?
It's part of all of that curriculum piece. It's with each other. It's with each other.
Because that's so important.
Ladies, how does a child qualify to come under your program?
Well, Head Start is an income-based program.
I
However,
realize that.
There are a number of factors that we take into account when it comes to the application process, such as household size, different demographics in your household. So we do encourage everyone to apply for the program. 10% of our applicants that we take into the program are over income, so there's always a chance that those parents will get a slot. We also take at least 10% of our applicants who are children that have a diagnosed disability. So in order to apply to the program, there's some paperwork to fill out. We also require a certified birth certificate, a copy of the child's insurance or medical card, and a year's worth of income, which most parents are able to get easily using their tax documents from the previous year.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking, Judith K., for a program that has a major impact on society at the very beginning of things, I can't think of a better program for the youngsters, whether they're economically deprived or not, and many are, unfortunately. But this would be one program that the taxpayers ought to be tickled to death we're involved with, because these are future citizens of our country. And it's had a major impact, I would think.
And what a better world it would be if we all learned to play well with one another.
Right. Well, and we should tell you that it is all free. There is no cost to the family to enroll or to be in the program. Even
this 10% that you were referring to?
Yes. Everything is free.
Good grief.
That's just very impressive to me. I think one of the few government programs that I just really get enthused about, but hearing and knowing more about it, I had no cognizance of of the depth of the far-reaching effect that you have on children. Did Mike? Because
now you said that some of the kids that you have a diagnosis of some kind of maybe autism or what have you. That would make a difference, because that child would probably, I should imagine, require a little more time and attention.
Yes, they do, and sometimes we will hire an individual aide to be with that child a one-on-one to provide more individualized attention and instruction. It just depends on the child and the, their individualization piece that we would do with them.
How about foster grandparents? Do you utilize people from that program?
Yes, we do.
Tell us a little bit about that program, because folks out here in the area may not know. They just heard the term, but they don't know what the heck a foster grandparent is.
Foster grandparent is part of community action as well as Head Start, and you must be 55 or older to apply, and there is an
that's
income.
No hill for a climber, is it?
There is an income eligibility, I believe, with them as well. So the Brianne Titus is the volunteer services director who also looks over the foster grandparent program. It is a volunteer program. They are paid a stipend for what they do, which is tax-free, I believe. I have one in Mason County that we've had for a long time, and she's wonderful. The children love her. She works in the early Head Start program now, since Head Start is on summer break, and the babies just adore her.
Well, think what she takes away from that herself.
Oh, well, and it's good for her because it gets her out of the house and gets her up and moving. And
associated with other folks.
Exactly.
That's a twofer. Not only the kids, but the foster grand. That's a great program.
Yes.
Now, do you have any men who serve in the foster grandparents program?
Not in our Head Start classrooms. Some of our other sites, foster grandparents are also placed at other daycares and different centers throughout our counties. But we have had some foster grandparents who've been men in our Head Start classrooms before.
I should think that that would be helpful, because anymore there are so many youngsters who don't have a man in their house. And if they get a Sunday school teacher that's a man, or a teacher that's a man, it's just wonderful for them.
How does one qualify to be a foster grandparent, and how does one apply? You know, a lot of old codgers out there ought to have something to do besides sit down and think about going to Old Joe's or the Spirited Republic, and there are more important things to do. That's a great, it's a great contributory thing, both ways. So how would a man or a woman who's of age apply to, and see if they qualify to be a foster grandparent?
They can go to Community Action on 1800 5th Street in Lincoln and meet with Brianne Titus or Carol Kincaid, and they will have all of the application and information they need in order to apply for the program.
Bearing in mind, of course, that there's some significant responsibilities to be, and you have to kind of sign on, be a part of it as far as your mental attitude is concerned, or it won't be a good mix.
Right. And they do have other placements. They also place them in public schools, where they do a lot more one-on-one, I believe. So when you're with the preschoolers, it's a little more active. And
tell me.
So yeah, if they want to be active, ask for Head Start, because you can be that way.
Well, can you do that? Can you name if you want to be a foster grandparent, can you name the program that you'd like to serve in?
I think you can request it, and a lot of it depends on where they need people.
I have a 3-year-old great-grandson, and every time I have him, it reminds me how smart God is giving them to young people. I mean, I love him more than life itself, but that is busy.
Yes, this girl, she's a foster grandparent with you. She's a grandparent a day or two a week, and she's a busy lady. Let me ask you about your expertise, your background. You just can't take somebody off the street and do what you're doing. Marcia, let's start with you, please.
I currently have a bachelor's degree in elementary education with an early childhood background. In order to do the managerial job that Tasha and I do, you have to have a bachelor degree. And at this point, our teachers are bachelor degree, or they need to be working towards a bachelor degree.
I see.
So, and our assistant teachers have to have a minimum of a CDA. We'd like them to have an associate's degree with early childhood background, not only for Head Start regulations, but for DCFS. They're a little different, so we got to make sure we have enough people in the building that can be over, in charge in case someone is absent or what have you. So, and then we have classroom assistants. Basically, they would need a high school diploma to do that, and we would help them further their education. Community Action Head Start has a education policy to where if a person wants to go on into the field of early childhood, we will assist them with tuition and help pay for that.
There are many industries who do that for their employees too. If they're willing to go on and further their education, they are willing to stand behind them. And that's so valuable. A lot of people don't take advantage of it, but it's a shame.
Tasha, you're a little younger. How did you get started in this profession? And it is a profession.
It is. I actually have a bachelor's degree in elementary education, and I've worked with children from infants all the way up to teaching middle school. I actually started with the agency as their school readiness coach, so I was going into the classrooms, observing the teachers, providing them with resources, helping them kind of solve problems that they were seeing in their classroom. And then I've actually just moved into the manager role in Logan County in December. So this is still very new to me. I'm still moving into this position, but very excited.
You talk about helping them solve any little issues that they might have in their classroom. I'm sure that's chronic. I mean, when you're dealing with a whole bunch of little bitty kids.
Mm-hmm. And they're all different.
Well, yeah, God isn't done with them yet, you know.
They're all, every issue is different.
Yes.
Well, the patience required is a very significant factor. That's a special calling, Judith K.
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, my, yes. And I'm sure these people are thoroughly vetted because you don't want to get somebody in there who doesn't happen to care for little kids.
Well, it's happened, we know. Periodically, you might read of something like that happen somewhere else.
We typically look for people who have some experience in the early childhood field because it is such a I don't even know what word I'm looking for. It's just a diverse group of children. When you have, and our children are mixed age, so we have 3s and 4s. So your 3s, a lot of them are very young, so they're just starting to get out there. Well, our 4-year-olds are like in charge because they've already been here for a year. So you kind of have a different variety of children, with personalities and that.
At daycare, Liam went from the little people to the 3s and 4s. And I said, well, how do you like playing with the big kids? And he said, I don't. I said, well, what's the matter? He said, they're mean. I said, well, what do they do? He said, they hit me. He's a pacifist.
Is there any way to measure your graduates, for want of a better word, from your program versus a kid from Judy's or my house that went into first grade or kindergarten at the same time? Who's more developed and who does better? Is there any way at all to get a handle on that? I would guess, without knowing a thing about it, that it would seem to me that the youngster who's been in a structured environment such as you offer would hit the ground running better than the average kid.
Well, that's our hope. And when we have them in class, we hope that we give them a good foundation to move into kindergarten and to keep that. We want to instill that love of learning in this early age. And if we can do that, then we will have done our job.
A big part of that would be reading to them and sharing books with them, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Whether they're at home with their mother or in Head Start. They've always talked about that as being just such an important part of child rearing, but I don't think we think much about it.
Reading is a very essential part of growing. When you read to them, they learn language, they lots of things that are involved in that. So it's a very important part, and we try very hard to read to our children every day.
Some parents automatically, inherently know that they need to read to their children. Others couldn't care less, or to be more charitable, they just don't really understand and know. When the kids that go to your program, that's going to be a part of their everyday life.
Yes.
It is. And I think a lot of parents don't realize how important it is at a young age. Research shows that children whose parents talk to them even as an infant and a 1-year-old, by the time they reach age 3, age 5, they are millions of words more advanced than their counterparts whose parents don't engage with them in language.
I used to talk to my youngest all the time because she was up all the time and crying because she wasn't busy. She didn't have anything to do. So she'd just cry, and I'd tell her, I don't know what we did before there was a you. It must have been pretty quiet and boring around here.
Has there been anything that you can pin your tail on the donkey here some real success story that you know of? I'm not going to ask you about the other side of that coin because inevitably those are the downers. We don't want to know about them. Is there anything that you can recall? Any instances of any youngsters that stand out?
We had one this past year. We had a little guy come into our early center. Family was from another country. They had very little English skills. The child also had autism.
Oh boy.
So coming in, he was very nonverbal. The family just moved in May, but when the child left, he was in a set routine. He was used to coming to school. He didn't cry at drop-off. He was excited to be there with his friends, and his language skills had increased dramatically. You know, he was saying full sentences and really using those words in the classroom that he didn't have when he had started back in October.
Well, that's when they do their learning of language skills, is when they're little tiny. They say if you're going to teach your child a second language, you should start when they're real little, because they pick it up real quickly.
Yeah, they do. And that's why it's constant that we talk all the time to the kids all the time. Questions, open-ended questions, so that it creates that higher order of thinking for them, so that way they can, get that language foundation that they need.
Do you see that lots of times with the little kids, that somebody who's just non-communicative will, after they've been asked a question about which pajamas did they wear last night, that they'll talk with you as time goes by freely and openly?
Yes, in fact, we had one in our program this year. When she came at the beginning, she had verbal skills, but they weren't, I would say, where they should be. And as she was in the program and by playing with the other kids, her language skills just blossomed, and she was speaking very well by the time she left. And she'll be going to kindergarten in the fall. So,
a lot of little kids, some are mine, some are my grandkids, and so forth, have an awful time speaking so that anybody can understand them. Their mother usually can, but beyond that, it's pretty dicey. How do you combat that?
We also, we also screen our children with developmental screening, and we'll do, it's called the Brigance, and it does a lot of developmental and speech things. And if in that time we feel that the child may need extra services, we can refer them to the school district in which they live to try to get them into more services. Maybe it's a speech IEP, maybe it's developmental, something like that. But we do that as well to try to get them the extra services that they may need. And by the time, if we can catch them early, by the time they get to kindergarten, they'll be where they should be.
Right.
Have you had any interaction with students with parents who express their attitudes about what we're doing for their youngsters?
I think most of our families are very appreciative. They realize the importance of education and catching their children young so that they can develop these skills and getting them into social settings, especially with our early classrooms. A lot of these children are only children, and so getting them into those classrooms where they can be around other kids and learn those basic sharing and communicating skills are very important to our families. So I think most are very appreciative of what we offer and the fact that we are a free service.
One final question. Socioeconomic problem that it is, do you have mostly, or I should say many, single parent youngsters?
We have quite a few, yes. I would say probably, probably 30% maybe. I don't know, what do you think more?
Which to me is one of the
varies.
tragedies of a child's life.
Yeah, it varies. And some of them have both parents, they just not be in the same home, but the father and the mother are both involved in the child's life. And it varies from year to year.
Well, Marcia Hieronymus and Tasha Mohn have been our guests this morning here on Viewpoint, talking about a very, very important subject as far as Judith and I are concerned. Head Start program, which is a wonderful program for kids by whatever their circumstances are in life. One bureaucrat, and this is a good statement from a bureaucrat, talked about the Head Start, and this is how I'll close tonight. for this morning. The goal of the Head Start program is to give at-risk, which is an important thing to remember, at-risk children all across our nation a fair chance at succeeding in our educational system. Ladies, thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks.